What's up everybody, TJ Tassone, mortgage broker owner of Tate & Capital, back again for another video. Today I'm going to talk about best places or neighborhoods to live as a young professional in Denver. Really excited to talk about this as this is something that speaks truly to me being a young professional. As always, if this is the first time you're coming to my channel, please like and subscribe at the info below to make sure you have access to my content as it comes out every single Friday. And let's hop into it. Alright guys, so the first neighborhood I want to talk about is Capitol Hill. The reason why I want to talk about it first is it's actually the first neighborhood that I lived in when I first moved to Denver, and it was actually right when I was starting out my career as well. So the reason why I look at that one as the first option is because there's a lot of really good attributes about it for being young. It's right near downtown, so you have the accessibility of being able to walk downtown to be able to take the light rail if you need to work, downtown near the 6th Street Mall. You can take the free mall ride or bus that just goes around 6th Street Mall. It's accessible. There's a lot of restaurants, bars, and concert venues that are very close by to it. And it's a fun area to be as there's a lot of things to do. Those are some popular things to think about as far as, being a young professional, and working and being downtown. Odds are pretty good that if you have your entry-level job at some big company, it's probably going to be downtown. So you're going to want to be, walking distance or at least a really short commute. So being able to have flexibility, being able to walk to restaurants and fun things to do when you're off work, but then also be really, really close to where your job is. It's definitely a really, really nice attribute about being in Capitol Hill. And so that's why I definitely think about that as my number one option. And so the next one I want to talk about is the Denver Tech Center. All right, guys, so the Denver Tech Center. So I want to talk about Denver Tech Center because it's going to be the second place in line for where you're going to see a lot of people want to move to or at least be close to, because that's where you're going to see a lot of jobs for, young professionals. It's kind of funny. So, ironically for me, when I first started working in Denver, I lived in Capitol Hill, but my job was in the Tech Center. So I had a really large commute. It ended up taking me about 45 minutes down and back every day to go from Cap Hill to the Tech Center because of, your standard rush hour traffic. And so I said, I'm going to end up moving to the Tech Center, at least close to it, because that's where my job's going to be. And so I bought a house in Aurora about 15 minutes away from where the Tech Center is, where my office was, and then ended up switching jobs to where I didn't actually need to be working in that location. And I kind of regret not having bought a place in Cap Hill or at least downtown in that area, because that's where I spent the majority of my time outside of work. But anyway, so Denver Tech Center. So Denver Tech Center is going to be home to a lot of your monster companies, your finance companies, your tech companies, real estate companies, things of that nature. The majority of jobs that you're looking at when you're coming into the workforce probably going to be somewhere along those lines, coming out of business school, things of that nature. So it's really convenient to have your live at least close by. So you're going to be looking at areas like Centennial, Inglewood, Aurora, because they're all really, really close to a tech center. Unless of course you live specifically in Denver Tech Center. So I put that at my second spot because I've got personal history living in Tech Center, and you're going to see a lot of people that are going to be working in those areas. So Capitol Hill number 1, Tech Center number 2, and now let's push into talk about RiNo. All right, so let's talk about RiNo, or River North Art District. When we're looking at RiNo, it's not going to be as good of a place to live specifically for your job. But if you're thinking about it as being, a younger person up and coming in your life, there's a lot of things to do. It's a really cool area. You're going to have lots of art everywhere. You're going to have lots of galleries. There's a lot of really nice restaurants. One of my personal favorites is Barcelona Wine Bar. They've got lots of different kinds of tapas. They've got really good selection of wine there. So that's one of my fun things to think about when you're going to visit RiNo, or at least going to play pool or doing something like that. A lot of people in their 20s and 30s go to RiNo just for the nice social nightlife aspect of it. There's a lot of new construction properties out there. There's a lot of really nice new high-rise condos and places to rent in RiNo. So if you're looking at moving from out of state into a place where you're going to see a lot of people that are your age, I recommend RiNo because it's a really popular hotspot of Denver, and there's just a lot of really fun things about RiNo itself. So I put that one as my number 3 because it's really up and coming, and I personally go there and I visit there. So I definitely recommend looking at RiNo as a spot to be as a young professional. All right, the fourth neighborhood that I really think about a lot for young professionals or people that are really starting to become successful in their careers, but maybe haven't quite gotten families or are in marriages yet, and they like being social and being able to go out, is Cherry Creek. So Cherry Creek has a lot of restaurants, lots of activities, lots of stores, really nice mall that you can go to. They got movie theaters. There's a lot of things you can do specifically in Cherry Creek, but they do have a good amount of businesses that are actually in Cherry Creek. And when you're talking about, in comparison to Cherry Creek or Capitol Hill, there is the accessibility function of it. If you're more or less in Cherry Creek, your commute to anything within Cherry Creek is probably not going to be more than 10 to 15 minutes max from one side to the other of it. Assuming you're not in gridlocked red light, stoplight traffic the whole way. First moved to Denver, I always thought, Cherry Creek was super, super nice. It was a little bit more expensive than what I could afford at the time, but it kind of reminded me a lot of, what you would think of as, Beverly Hills in California, where just, really beautiful buildings on the outside, looks really luxurious. You feel like you're a really successful business person walking around there. And, like I said, lots of really good restaurants and things to do. So I put that at number 4. But one of the things that I didn't mention in the prior segments of this video is that we really want to talk about what the cost of living is like in those areas for young people. So you're looking at really 1-bedroom rentals and 1-bedroom condos. And so I'm going to talk about that on the next segment. So let's hop right into that. All right, guys, so now I want to talk about just kind of your basic cost of living expectations as far as just your monthly rent or cost of purchasing a property goes for the areas we talked about, right? So we talked about Cap Hill, the DTC or Denver Tech Center. We talked about RiNo, the River North, or we got Cherry Creek, right? So if we're looking at Capitol Hill of the 4 that I've talked about is going to be probably the least expensive as far as rentals go. If you're looking at a 1-bedroom in Cap Hill, I would estimate on the low side, probably $1,000 a month would be fair for 1-bedroom. And then, realistically somewhere in the middle, $1,500 or so is probably what you're going to see a lot of. And then high side, probably closer to $2,000, $2,200 a month for a rental. Now, if you're looking at purchasing a property, if you're able to find a 1-bedroom condo in Cap Hill, I would expect that there's probably going to be somewhere in the 300,000 range. So you're looking at, like low threes, upwards to maybe 360, 370 on the high side. And that's what I would expect to see for condos. Houses are a little bit harder to find in the tech center just because of how congested the area is. A lot of the space is low-rise condo complexes or big apartment complexes or, old houses that have been converted to, multiple units or, 4 or 5 units within one building. You don't see a lot of single-family houses in Cap Hill, but if you do find them, they're going to be pretty expensive. You're probably going to start seeing them at maybe $750 all the way up to $1 million plus would be a fair, representation of what the cost of purchasing a property would be in Cap Hill. Now, if you're looking at DTC is definitely on the higher end of the spectrum as far as cost of living goes, as far as rents and as far as purchasing. So I would estimate low side for a 1-bedroom to be $1,600 a month, probably going to be closer to $2,000 a month is probably going to be average. And then you could, go as high as $2,500, $3,000 a month, no problem. Condos, again, going to be a little bit harder to find just because it's a really desirable area. So they might not be as readily available on the market, but I would expect at least mid 300s just to start for a condo. And expect them to go as high as $1 million, no problem. Houses, you're probably not going to get a house in the tech center for under 800. I would expect probably closer to 9 to $1 million plus as well for properties in the tech center. If we're looking at RiNo, like I said, is up and coming. You're still able to find some rentals a little on the lower end of the spectrum, but I would estimate $1,400 is kind of your bottom end line for RiNo 1-bedroom rental. Probably going to be closer to 25 as a, kind of a mid-range, and then high side $3,500 to $4,000 a month for RiNo if you're looking at really nice properties or if you start pushing into 2 bedrooms. Condos, cost to buy a condo in RiNo, I would expect probably $400 is going to be your starting point. You're going to start pushing into maybe that $450 to $500K range once you start looking at really pushing into single family houses. But I would say, 400s is going to be your starting point for purchasing a condo in RiNo. And then lastly, Cherry Creek. Cherry Creek is the nicest and the most expensive of the areas that I've discussed. So with the nicest areas, it comes with, higher costs. So I would say low end for Cherry Creek for 1 bedroom is probably somewhere around $1,800 a month, but it could go as high as $6,500 a month depending upon how nice of a place you want. If you're really pushing past 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom, those are some things to keep in mind. Now, cost of purchase in Cherry Creek, definitely very expensive. Condos, you'll be lucky to find something in the 400 to 500 range, but realistically speaking, it's one of the most, high-end areas of Denver. you're probably going to see things that are going to be 8-9 million plus no-brainers if they're available. Stuff that goes live in Cherry Creek doesn't last very long, as it's, a very desirable area to be in. And then lastly, this is a lot of fun for me to make videos, but I really welcome feedback, questions, comments, anything like that. So if you guys ever have any concerns, any things that you want me to talk about to make the videos more exciting, please feel free to reach out and let me know. And if you have questions about what it's like living in Denver or how to qualify for a mortgage, those are the types of things that I do every day. So please feel free to reach out to me at the info below. And lastly, please like and subscribe my videos so that way you have access to them as they come out every single Friday. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.